What's going on? It's your big brother Trend. You tuned in once again to another exclusive video. And if you know, like I know, don't nothing happen by mistake. Everything happens for a reason. So I don't know, maybe you watching this video right now and you just, based on the title, you was wondering like, what is a dark night of the soul? Or maybe you going through a dark night of the soul right now and this video came right in time. Listen, because divine powers are working for us because we do right. Again, make sure you listen to everything that I'm about to tell you in this message. Stay tuned to the end of this video. If you figure out through this video, and I confirm it to you that you're going through a dark night of the soul, I got something very special for you at the end of this video. Okay, so let's talk about this thing, the dark night of the soul. Now, you might have heard of that term floating around. You might have heard somebody else say they went through a dark night of the soul, but maybe you went through a dark night of the soul. And if you have, be sure to speak up, let your voice be heard, and leave a comment below before you go to let everybody know it's going to be all right at the end of the day. Okay? Because a dark night of the soul is also similar to a spiritual awakening. Have you ever had a spiritual awakening? Speak up, let your voice be heard. Let me know if you've had a spiritual awakening. All right? Now, the difference between having a dark night of the soul and having a spiritual awakening is spiritual awakening, it's a little bit more easier to go through, okay? In your lifetime, you're probably going to have about 5 or 6 different spiritual awakenings at certain intervals on your journey, okay? I know personally I've had like 2 spiritual awakenings, and each time those spiritual awakenings were like, it was mind-blowing, first of all, and it was actually kind of scary because you never know what to expect. You don't know what you're going through until after it's over. All right. So there are some people out there, if you are a very highly spiritual person, then without the shadow of a doubt, I know you have experienced a spiritual awakening. All right. Now you can experience spiritual awakening in all different kinds of ways. Okay. It could be through anxiety. It could be through panic attacks. It could be through, like a traumatic situation, something that happened that, it really set you back. It could be some type of injury that you've experienced, some accident or something with somebody in your family. There are many different ways that you can go through a spiritual awakening. Okay. Now, when it comes to going through the dark night of the soul, this is much more worse than going through a spiritual awakening. Okay, when you having the dark night of the soul, it's like you die internally and then you are reborn again. Okay, you rebirth. All right, you don't physically die, but the spiritual you who you once used to be. It kind of like it's like the scales falling off a snake. It's just. It peels off, and then you go off into the sunset, or it's just like a butterfly in a cocoon. You in a cocoon for however long that this dark night of the soul is awakening, and then you metamorph into a butterfly after you go through the dark night of the soul. Okay, again, having a dark night of the soul is way more hard to handle and more difficult to go through than having a spiritual awakening. You will know for a fact if you're having a dark night of the soul or not. You will know because it'll be so gut wrenching, and it'll be so like you'll feel so bad about, you don't even know why. Okay, you just know something's not right with you. All right, and your body might be in perfect form. You're not going through any illness. You're not sick or nothing. Everything seems to be going right. But it's like something on the inside of you is dying. And that's literally how it feels when you're going through a dark night of the soul. You're like, I've never experienced this before. I don't know what it is. It feels bad. I can't call anybody. You can't call nobody and tell them because they just won't understand. And you don't know what's really going on with yourself as you're going through a dark night of the soul. But what's really happening is that, like I said, you're evolving into a higher being, okay, on your spiritual journey. And usually when you're going through something as serious and extreme as a dark night of the soul, it sometimes for some people it's days and weeks. Okay, it'll start out on day one. All right, and then every single day, it's like you're climaxing up to like this point of no return, and it's like you don't know that it's happening until it gets really, really bad. All right, and it just hits you one day, and it's like the worst feeling ever spiritually. And that is the epicenter of having a dark night of the soul, is when that one day, it could be, maybe you're feeling this right now before this video, but it's that day where you just feel like, yo, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it through the night. I don't even know if I'm gonna make it through the day. That's how bad I feel about my whole life. That's how bad you feel about everything that has happened up into that point. Another thing you got to understand is when you're having a dark night of the soul, most of the time it has to be your angel guides or whoever protects you from higher dimensions, all right, has to guide you through this process, all right? I'm convinced that there are other beings in different dimensions that are assigned to you and that can help you along your journey, help you get through the dark night of the soul, help you overcome spiritual awakenings. I mean, because if you think about it, none of us was really taught this type of information. It's something that we just learned through experiences. And I'm convinced that there are beings that are assigned to you in different dimensions that aid the process for you to go through a dark night of the soul. And you usually don't even know how they're doing it. They're doing things that you could not do on your own. And by the time you actually go through that worst phase of the dark night of the soul, you look back on every moment up until that point and you're like, yo, I do not know how that happened. Supernatural forces definitely have to assist you sometimes when you are going through the dark night of the soul, because it feels that bad. It feels that bad. Like, and so, like I said, a spiritual awakening is totally different from going through a dark night of the soul. If you've went through a dark night of the soul at least one time, I need you to speak up, let your voice be heard, leave a comment below, give us a short description of what it was like for you, because I know it's different for everybody, because everybody's spiritual life is different, everybody's journey is different. And usually one thing about a dark night of the soul, it usually happens when something is about to change dramatically in your life. Like I'm saying something big is about to happen for you, or maybe something big is happening now in your life. And the only way you're going to be able to, function over on the other side is if you go through this. It's like a blender, it's like you put the fruit in the blender, it's fruit at first, and then you stir it up and it's like this whirlwind of noise and fast jets and stuff. And next thing you know, you come out and be like a smoothie. That's how it is when you're going through the dark night of the soul. It's like going from this side of the river to this side of the river, and you got to cross the raging river in order for you to get to the other side. And like I said, most of the time, if you have to go through a dark night of the soul, then that means that, you have to, as a spiritual being, you have to be sped up that fast, okay, to get to the stage that you're moving to, all right? And this also represents completing missions that were assigned to you on your spiritual journey before it happens, okay? So it's kind of like a level up. It's kind of like, going to a different grade. Again, it's just basically you've come to a milestone on your spiritual journey, and you don't have all the juice to do it by yourself, all right? You're not in the right position to go through it at the time that it was supposed to happen. So maybe you have gotten behind on your spiritual journey just a little bit. You might be just a fraction off of crossing over to your destiny, and the spiritual world, the spiritual forces, your angel guides, you know, your ancestors, they have to intervene. Forces have to intervene with you in order to get you to where you need to be right on time. And sometimes it takes going through the dark night of the soul to be able to make that transition. Okay. So like I said, it's the same thing with a spiritual awakening. It's just that a spiritual awakening is more easier to cope with. You know, you understand that you're going through a spiritual awakening when you're going through a spiritual awakening. Okay. It's something, it's slightly more, it's slightly more painful. It's slightly less painful than going through a spiritual awakening. All right. So I don't know if you are experiencing the dark night of the soul or anything, but one thing you have to understand is that when you are breaking free from everything in the past, sometimes it requires you to, you might have to lose friends while you're going through this dark night of the soul. You might lose your job when you're going through the dark night of the soul. Because again, it's rebirth. You know, it's your old self dying and you basically awakening up to your new self. All right. And so your soul, your spirit self has to detach from things that you once were connected to. And this sometimes could be, like I said, it could be people that was close to you. It could be a job. It could be eating habits. It could be any type of substance abuse that you might have been going through. And now you got to face it. Now you got to face the issue. Okay. It could be you changing your character just a little bit. You know, the universe is telling you, you got to stop being angry. This is the last time you're going to, react to somebody negative that does something to you. It's over. Rebirth time. This is what you've been waiting on. You know it. And this is the cutoff point. From this point on, everything from this point on, it has to go the way that you know it should have been before you went through the dark night of the soul. See, a dark night of the soul happens when you are still attached to things that no longer serve you. Okay, like I say, it could be anything, man. It could be anything that you're attached to, and you've been given multiple chances to switch it up, to change it up, to stop doing it. And since you have not obeyed, since you have not obeyed cosmic law, all right, as a being, those things that you are holding on to have to be crushed, all right? Like grapes, they have to be crushed inside of you. And since, like I say, since you didn't do it, then this is when the spiritual police comes and intervenes and says, all right, that's enough. Time's up. It's over. And it's going to be painful. I'm sorry, but you got to go through this. You got to go through this spiritual surgery. I mean, it is what it is. It's gonna hurt internally. It's gonna hurt spiritually. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt emotionally. You're gonna cringe. You're gonna feel bad. You're gonna feel horrible. Everything that you didn't detach yourself from is going to hit the fan. You're gonna think about it. You're gonna have thoughts coming through your mind. You're gonna see visions of things. It's gonna be bad. But guess what? Spirit is saying, it's okay. I'm still with you. That's how you know the spirit is on your side. That's how you know the Most High is on your side, is when you're going through a dark night of the soul or an awakening. Because like I said, folks, this is something that we do not edge on as people. We don't even know it's coming. But the feeling that you feel after you come out of a spiritual awakening or the dark night of the soul it's indescribable. It's like a so fresh, so clean feeling. You know, it's like, relief. I finally feel free. I'm finally here now, and you're fresh. Okay, all your sins have been wiped away. All right, it's just like coming out of church on a Sunday. It's like, yes, I'm so glad it's over though, but I did it. You know, after you went to the altar, you got prayer, you just like, you happy that whole day, like, yo, I gave up something that I was holding on to, and it worked out fine. So, these are the symptoms of having a dark night of the soul experience. If you are having one, it's going to be all right. You're going to get through this, but you're going to have to go through it. Okay. You're going to have to go through the inner torment of spirit, and you're going to have to break through it all on your own. It ain't no way around it. Okay. But I did say, if you stayed tuned to the end of this video, I got something very special for you. All right. Like I always do. Now, if you're going through a dark night of the soul, you could be into a lot of different things that you should not be into. And this could even mean that people have put spells on you. Okay. And you don't even know that they did it or are doing it. And like I said, the only way you can detach from these spells and these habits that you are going through is going through a dark night of the soul. Okay. Now, if you suspect that you are under the spell, all right, to be able to break, these curses that have been brought upon you through whatever type of form or fashion, all right? If you feel like you're under a spell right now and that is the only thing that is hindering you, then if you look below in the comment section, I have a Chosen Ones Breaking Spells course, and I got all kind of private videos in there that I don't have on here that you can watch that will help you get rid of some of those spells. Or if you feel like somebody's cursed you right now from going forward in your life, and you don't want to go through a dark night of the soul, then you need to get that course below. It's called Chosen Ones and Breaking Spells course. Because listen, whether or not you break the spell or not, if you do break the spell, kudos to you. Good job. All right. You figured it out. All right. But if you're not going to break these spells and these things that are holding you back and are keeping you from spiritually evolving, you're going to go through a dark night of the soul. It ain't no way around it, because you're spiritually cared for, and, Source wants you to grow and continue to go and continue to grow. Okay. So you're going to have to go through the dark night of the soul if you continuously stay attached to things that are no longer serving you. All right. So with that being said, man, it's your big bro Trend. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if this video resonated with your spirit and your soul. Make sure you hit that like button if it resonated with your spirit or your soul. And again, if you went through a dark night of the soul or have ever had a spiritual awakening, just comment below and give us a small paragraph on like what it's like. Because I'm pretty sure people are going to want to read your experience. Okay. If you went through the dark night of the soul or a spiritual awakening. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.